All right, hello again, everybody. It's Peter with Limitless Results, and I'm back with another very interesting, very intriguing, very enlightening interview with another one of our successful Thinking into Results clients. Everybody, I'm really happy to introduce Amy Byram. Amy, welcome. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for being here. Sure. And I'm going to just give a little bit of an introduction. Amy joined the program about 6 months ago. And Amy, I'm not going to spoil anything. I want Amy to tell you, but Amy has made such a dramatic transformation internally in the last 6 months. And it's starting to get her dramatically different external results as well that I couldn't not interview her. I couldn't not share Amy's journey. Amy's pretty fantastic results with you. So we're going to dive in, learn a little bit more about Amy. But Amy, what can you tell us about yourself? Give us sort of a Reader's Digest condensed version of who Amy Byram is at this moment.
Okay. Well, um, I did grow up in a military family, so we traveled all over the place. And, that included three different first grades, 3 years in Norway,
Mm,
18 moves. So I guess when I was a sophomore in high school, we landed in Northern Virginia, and I've been here ever since. So that's where I say I'm from.
okay.
And I have had a pretty long, successful career. So I started out in human resources, but over the course of time, I sort of narrowed that down to the things I loved the most, the things I thought I was
Mhm.
best at. So that ended up being training and team building and group facilitation and organizational development of all kinds. And you know that because that's where our paths crossed. We
Mhm.
worked together for a period of time at the Washington Post.
We
But
did.
now I'm sort of at a new juncture in my life where I am getting ready to launch a business of my own.
That is phenomenal. And we're going to save a little bit of that because I want Amy to give you her experiences with that journey from corporate employee to starting her own business. It was quite a remarkable journey that Amy
Mm.
took the last very short 6 months. That's the exciting stuff that I'm going to hold off on and let her tell you as we move forward. But the first thing I want to do here is to just sort of dive in with Amy. And Amy, I'd like you to just tell us what is it, first of all, that prompted you to join the Limitless Results Thinking into Results program? What is it that made you say, I'm going to do this?
Well, it was sort of a twisty, turny path for me that
Mhm.
took, actually, it was years in the making. I think I just said that I had a long, successful career, but I did come to a bump in the road where one day I just noticed this weird pain in my hip, and it didn't go away and it got worse. And it turned into a 4 year saga of chronic pain and,
Mm,
um, you know, just having to deal with that before I was able to get surgery and correct that. But that took a toll on me. And then there were a number of other things that happened in my life. My parents both died.
oh,
I, had just a number of other things that were issues. And I had finished one job and was sort of in between at the point that I started seeing your announcements on Facebook. And I
yeah.
realized I had been in a pattern for quite a while that I wasn't doing things to my potential. I knew that. And I was sort of stuck, and I knew that. And, you know, I guess two things really prompted me to take the dive. One was that I got to have a little taste of it through some of your online materials, but the other was just knowing you. I knew that it would be an incredible opportunity for me, and I was right. I knew that I needed to do something, and this was the right thing for me.
Boy, well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And the reason I'm smiling so broadly here is I just loved your phrasing. You said, when I decided to take the dive. And that really is what it feels like for a lot of us when we join this program. You know, I'm obviously leading the program and a consultant in it right now, but that same wording was in my head as well when I did it. It was sort of like when I think about it, when I came in, it was like, okay, uh, what am I going to do? And I remembered it was like when I was a little kid and I went off the high dive at the neighborhood swimming pool the first time. It's like, all right, you just got to jump in.
Mm.
And so, congratulations to you for making that dive.
Mhm.
What I'd like to do now is to hear a little bit about what your journey has been so far in the
Mm.
program.
Okay.
So start with, where you were when you came into the program, which you just basically kind of left off with, and tell us a little bit more about your journey through the program over the last 6 months.
Okay. Well, when we first started working, I don't know if it was frustrating for you, but I
Not at
know
all
that,
for me.
well, I knew that as you asked questions about me and my life, I knew I didn't have the answers. And as hard as I tried to find them, they just weren't right at the surface.
Yeah.
So I wasn't clear on what I wanted. I had over the course of time, I think suffered a little bit in terms of confidence and my own self image and what I was capable of and even what I wanted to do. So
Yeah,
I
not
think
uncommon problems, by the way. That's about 98% of the population. So you were in good company, but clearly didn't want to stay in that company.
no. And, I think that was one of the first things in the journey that was so critical was you
Mhm.
didn't let me just answer at the surface when you ask, what do you really want, Amy? And whether it was with regard to money or a nice house or a relationship or a vocation, I couldn't just say, well, I'd love lots of money or I'd love a beautiful house. It really was a little bit of work to get crystal clear in terms of those things. And I remember the analogy that you used helped me a lot because I wanted all of it. And
Yeah.
so you used the analogy of we're on a ship and we're going to go to various ports. We need to pick the first
Right.
port we're going to go to. And for me, that was really working on my health so that I would feel stronger and more capable to do all the others.
Awesome. So you got crystal clear on what it was that you wanted,
Mm.
which is always the first step toward achieving success. And we're going to define success as the progressive realization of that worthy goal or that worthy ideal. So you got that worthy ideal. You took the cruise ship analogy. I love that one too. I use that one myself in my own head. That we're going to be for the rest of your life, you're going to be going from port to port to port, and you're just going to keep growing and deciding what's the next thing I want to be, do, have, accomplish. You started out with a health goal, and then walk us through the rest of that journey after you got crystal clear on what you wanted and started going for that first port.
Well, I started making progress and I started learning that it didn't have to be the struggle or the hard, almost impossible thing that I thought it had been my whole life. And as I started believing that a little bit more,
Mhm.
I started wanting the other things a little quicker. And so you
Right.
might remember that I said, okay, I want money now. And
Okay. I do remember. Yes.
yeah, and we
You're in good
found a
company.
yeah, well, we found a way to kind of craft a worthy goal, a big C type goal that had all of those things incorporated. Not everything I ever want, but those two major elements kind of working together as a whole. And I loved that because I couldn't wait, and you never suggested that I should wait to start on the others, but I wanted to bring the same kind of focus to it. So whether it was being clear on my goal, whether it was examining my thoughts around that, whether it
Mhm.
was trying to clean those up a little bit,
Yeah.
whether it was coming up with the replacement thoughts, I think in the form of affirmations, but also some visual representations. I've made some gorgeous collages that make my heart pound now.
Awesome.
And, you
I've
know,
seen them. They are pretty gorgeous. I have to
oh,
agree.
and when,
Very
so when I
creative.
Well, and so when I say an affirmation that I'm living the life of my dreams, actually, the life of my dreams comes to life because I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
And actually, now, Peter, it's coming to life, and I'm believing in these things more because some of the pictures have already come true.
Isn't that interesting? So, Amy said a lot there, everybody. So, before I have her continue with where she is in the journey, I want to just, with Amy's help, unpack a little bit of this. So, keep in mind what the journey's been for Amy so far, right? She had this, as she said, kind of programming, this kind of, she used the word stuck, corporate job. This is how it is. This is how much money you make in a corporate job, doing what she was comfortable doing. She had circumstances that were not quite to her liking and not quite ideal, which we all have, myself included, and those come and go. She used those to get clear on what it is that she really wanted. And when she got clear on what she really wanted, she realized that this program was going to be her path of least resistance to get there. So, what I love about what Amy just said is that she got that clarity and she started in the program learning the tools and the techniques that allowed her to create. Now, she created from the inside out, which is what most of us don't do. Most of us create from the outside in. We try to change the circumstances around us, but we don't start from the inside, which is a lot like trying to change your reflection in the mirror. I'm going to break the mirror. I'm going to change my hair in the mirror. No, you've got to do that within yourself first, and then the reflection in the mirror will change. It's going to reflect whatever it is that you have changed or crafted on the inside. Amy got that clear vision. She used her imagination. She brought it to life. She used the technique of writing out affirmations, putting a collage together, etc., which sometimes sounds a little silly to us as adults, like a
It did
waste
to
of
me at the
time.
beginning.
Oh yeah, it does seem silly to most people. What is this, first grade arts and crafts? What am I doing here? But the key thing that I don't want any of us to overlook here, and what Amy shared with us, is that all of those tools got her to connect on an emotional level with what it is that she really wanted. In her case, a health goal and a financial goal. She persisted. She didn't just do that once, she persisted with that. And something changed on the inside. So, Amy, pick up there. Tell us, when you started doing all of this, what started to change on the inside for you that led to the results that you're getting now?
Well, not only was I stuck, but I think I was down in the dumps and I just
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of apathy. And I didn't really think there was that much I was interested in at that point because I had let myself get to that place. As I started really trying to imagine if I could have anything I wanted, if I could do anything I wanted, what would those be? And, you know, it, it actually wasn't so much of a arts and craft projects as it was something fun to just go on the internet, clip some pictures of things I really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, I realized there were a lot of things. I might want to go on a hot air balloon. I might want to,
I love
I
it.
definitely want to go wine tasting. So I got some beautiful pictures of that. I have beautiful pictures of the herb gardens that I'm going to grow and, places that I want to visit. I've never been to the Grand Canyon and I haven't been to the top of the Empire State Building. So I'm just put all these pictures together and so when I said, I'm living the life of my dreams, I could see it, I could feel it,
Very
I
nice.
wanted it. I no longer felt disinterested. I wanted these things. And I think I told you, Peter, one day, I think this was maybe a turning point in my journey
Mm-hmm.
because in the beginning, it's hard to believe something is real and current that hasn't yet fully come to
Yeah.
pass. And so when I made statements that were as though they had already happened, my brain was having a little hard time reconciling. But I kept
Yeah.
persisting. And one day, I told you this story. One day, I was in my kitchen and I was cooking, and all of a sudden, it wasn't a conscious choice, it wasn't a decision I made. I just started dancing. And
I
all
love
of
it.
a sudden, I felt like the person I was saying I wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
healthy, energized, vibrant, living the life of my dreams.
Yeah.
And I had another experience I haven't told you about yet,
Oh,
but
let's hear it.
or maybe I did. But anyways, I had recently gone on a trip to Florida and one day I went in the pool at the hotel we were staying in. And at that moment, no one else was in it. So
Uh-huh.
I was paddling around in the beautiful sunshine, looking at the palm trees in a pool that felt like my own in this gorgeous setting.
I love
And
it.
I thought, I am living the life of my dreams. It's not a
Amazing.
future thing.
Amazing, amazing. And everyone, I don't want you to lose the alchemy that happens here when you get the hang of this and get this right. So, Amy didn't initially believe what she was saying, and that's very common for a lot of us. I am so happy and grateful now that I am living the healthy, wealthy life of my dreams. That's not exactly her affirmation. I'm greatly paraphrasing here. And there's something in the brain, which is normal, that goes, yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. But Amy has cracked the code here. And in a minute, you're going to hear some of the results that she's starting to get now that she's cracked the code. She's cracked the code by understanding that everything that shows up on the outside is for this is the best way I can describe it. It's solidified inside thought. Think about that in your own lives, everybody. What you focus on, the internal conversations that you have in your head, the things that you imagine in your head, good, bad, or indifferent, and get emotionally involved with over time, start to become your reality, right? If you're worried about finances, or you're worried about career, or you're worried about health, and you're envisioning, oh my gosh, well, 10 years from now, probably I'm going to be in this financial situation I don't like. And how am I going to pay this bill? And I'm worried and my health is getting worse. And you get to a certain age where things start to fall apart. That's what we do, right? Most of us in the world. And think about it, all of those things that we repeat in our heads, imagine in our heads, say to ourselves in our inner dialogue, and get emotionally involved with, whether it's a positive emotion or a negative emotion. Look at your own life. It won't take you very long to realize that those are the things that solidify into reality. So Amy has cracked the code. You
Hmm,
don't,
day by day.
yeah. And I love that she said day by day because it was a gradual process. She persisted with it on a day by day basis. And I like to use this analogy, it's like brushing her teeth or taking a shower. You got to stay with it and it becomes a lifelong daily habit, right? You would not skip brushing your teeth or taking a shower for very long because the outcome of that in a very short period of time is really not going to be a beneficial outcome, right? You're going to be in a situation physically that you wouldn't want to be in. Once Amy cracked that code and stuck with that, she started to see the results in her life changing, right? Basically the frequency she was on. It was sort of like what she wanted, the health, the wealth, the lounging in the pool, all of that was on radio station 106 FM. And Amy was down here at radio station AM 85. There's no way, I don't care what you do on 85 AM, you're not going to receive what's being broadcast on 106 FM. So through the program and that daily application, Amy gradually changed the dial on her radio. So her frequency was now up here at 106 FM, let's say, with what she wanted. And she started to attract everything to her that was aligned with that. So congratulations on cracking the code, Amy.
Thank you.
So,
Well, and it is a code I have to crack all the time
yeah.
because as soon as some new challenge comes along or something that, has frustrated me forever, and if it
Yeah.
raises its ugly head again, for a nanosecond,
Yeah.
I want to go back to past ways of thinking. Well, I don't know that I want to, but I do for
Yeah.
just a second.
It's
But that
normal.
was sort of the next part of the process was I'm not sure that I have ever persisted daily with some kind of inner work. And I'm now on day 81 of a 90-day challenge.
Nice.
And so I see what the benefit is. Maybe your mind starts to have thoughts that aren't the ones that you want, the ones that will help you get the results you want. But if you wake up the next morning and do it all again and get back on that, if you want to call it a vibration, but
Mhm.
just on that right radio station, thinking about what you want, being positive about it, and taking the next steps that go with that,
Yeah.
then over the course of time, it all does start to come true.
Yeah, Amy, well stated. And a strange analogy just popped into my head. It's a dated analogy, but back in the day, pre-cable television, when there weren't a lot of stations and they weren't digital, they all came through the air. There were these things called rabbit ears, and they were antenna. Some people are going to remember this, some won't. So if you don't, I'm going to explain it. Kind of like this, and there's an antenna, and it literally sat on top of your television, and you could be tuned to the station, and then a little later on that day or the next day the station's fuzzy and it's not coming in, and you had to just adjust those rabbit ears into, so I didn't mean to do that, just to the right, let me use different fingers, just to the right. I don't think I'm going to be able to edit that out, folks. A little humor for you. But you wanted to adjust the rabbit ears so that you stay tuned to that station. And that's the analogy that jumped out at me with what Amy just shared. You know, it's not a one-shot deal. It just becomes a daily habit. And a
Mm.
daily habit, I would dare say, after you do it for a while, probably no more than a month or so, it becomes a very pleasant, habitual daily ritual that is pleasant, that you mostly look forward to, and that starts getting the results. That's
Mm.
how I would describe it. Amy might describe it differently. What do you think, Amy?
Oh, I think that is spot on. That's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah,
And I have added some other things to the mix and created this morning ritual. You know, I had never meditated before. I told myself I couldn't do it. I wasn't that kind of person. I mean, I'm
right.
sure there were all kinds of weird thoughts that went through my head. You know, that's for other people that, wear yoga pants, and I don't know what I thought, but
Yoga pants are optional.
thank goodness. But I have found that I've been doing it 81 days, and I have found that I am learning to clear my mind.
Yeah,
And then
interesting.
it gives me more space to choose those thoughts that I want to have to feed my subconscious and, that whole flow of energy. I can have more space for focus and imagination and all those things that are so critical to this. And I think the other thing that I added was just I do write in a gratitude journal now, and I
Very
start the
nice.
day in a positive way. So I think maybe it was all of those things together that helped turn my ship around a little bit, heading more toward the ports I wanted to go to.
Well said, Amy. I could not have said that better. That's a perfect description of what this program does over the 6 months. Other thing that you said that I want to point out to people, did you notice? I loved this. Amy said when she meditated, cleared her mind with the daily application of what she learned in the program, she had space to, and I love this phrase, she had space to choose her thoughts. And that's part of the code that Amy's cracked also. Very often we tend to think thoughts just come into our heads. I used to think that, and oh, well, there's nothing I can do about it. And I remember years ago, a friend said to me, there was something, I said, gosh, every time I think about this, it just makes me feel so bad. And this friend of mine said, well, then don't think about that. And I couldn't wrap my head around that. I'm like, what do you mean don't think about? I can't control what I think. I mean,
Mm,
thoughts come into my head. I can't not think about it. Young, naive me,
mm,
who thankfully has grown out of that. Yeah, Amy makes a really good point. This program helps to clear that space to choose our thoughts. And again, as we choose our thoughts, that informs the internal dialogue going on in our head, or maybe I should say internal monologue. Sometimes it's dialogue. We're having a conversation with somebody else in our heads. And it allows us to direct that to, if you will, the radio station that we would prefer, and then we start receiving things on that radio station. Okay, but Amy said that so well, and I just wanted to underscore that. Amy, I want to actually shift gears a little bit now to some of the results you've gotten. So you've gotten tremendous internal results that you've told us about. Just the way you're feeling on the inside, clarity on what it is that you want, belief in the possibility of it, being able to quiet and clear your mind, having a greater sense of inner peace, all of which are marvelous and a great foundation and an essential foundation for creating the life that you want to live. But tell us a little bit more about some of the actual physical, real world results that you've been starting to get.
Well, I think I said that my first attempt at a C-type goal was a big focus on improving my health.
Mhm.
Because I really thought that until I did that, I wouldn't have the wherewithal to do any of the rest of the things.
Yeah, hold on one
And
second. For those who don't know what a C-type goal is, that's something you'll learn in the program. There's three types of goals. The C-type goal is what you really want, kind of your fantasy. You've never done it before, and it scares you. Okay, just wanted to get that in there, Amy. Please continue.
oh, and I'm sorry if I'm using some jargon, but I am
No
so
worries.
immersed in it now. I started with that focus on health, and I would say that I had a lot of, I'm just going to call it stinking thinking
Okay, I
about
like that.
that. I've lost weight before, I've gained it back. I read the statistics that most people do. I think, what's the use? I'm just going to gain it back. This is hard. I don't like it. I don't want to. That turned into, I am healthy. I am vibrant and energetic, and I can do the things I want to do in
Mhm.
life. And as I started thinking it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't absolutely have to be, I can find ways that are natural to me that I actually
Mhm.
enjoy and like, and that I move into in the way that I want to, that works for me, and therefore is
Nice.
something that is going to last. And I began believing that. And I will report to you that in 6 months, I lost 36 pounds. Now,
Wow.
you say, wow, my initial reaction was, just 36. But I had written down at the beginning, I would like to lose weight at a healthy rate of 1 to 2 pounds per week, which, if you multiply that out, I lost 1.5 pounds per week exactly. So, since I said that is what I wanted,
Mhm.
that is precisely what I got.
Isn't that interesting, the precision of that?
Yes.
That's very,
And
very interesting. Yeah.
so on top of that, I had, without even knowing it, but at a doctor's visit right at that juncture, I found out that, my blood sugar level was off the charts. And
Mm.
all of a sudden they're calling me diabetic, and all of a sudden all these things, type 2.
Mhm.
But that's all gone. Everything completely
Wonderful.
normal. So, and I feel better, and I have a positive outlook. So that was one result. Um,
Nice.
and then, I mentioned I started weaving into my goal the whole notion of, having abundance not only in my feeling of health and wellness, but in, the financial aspect of my life. And
Mhm.
and to me, that meant I was ready to get back to work. Like you mentioned before, I didn't want it to be another corporate world job. I'd had a lot of those, and I did enjoy a lot of them, but I want something different now. I feel
Yeah.
like at this point, I have experienced so much, I have learned so much, I have kind of a unique combination of things that weave together to put me in the perfect moment now
Mhm.
to do certain things. And so I don't believe, without this coaching, without this program, I don't believe that I would have, again, taken another plunge and formed an LLC and
Mm.
started working on product and creating all the infrastructure. And in fact, the way I would have phrased this before would have been, a client just fell in my lap. I don't know that I would phrase it that way anymore. I made choices and decisions along the way that made me think differently and view things differently and see the opportunities and take advantage of them. And so I'm on my way now to getting ready to officially launch my business.
Marvelous. And Amy actually got two clients that sort of fell into her lap, but we know that that's not really how it worked. She set that intention, she envisioned it, she wrote that out as her affirmation. Again, her radio dial went to having the clients and launching the program, and what she got was here. And she gradually, through the program, basically switched to that station. So she started receiving and is still receiving what's happening on that frequency. And so now, again, Amy's cracked the code. I always joke with everybody when they start the program. I'm not really joking, but kind of tongue in cheek. I just have to give you a warning. Amy, you'll remember I said this. Once you learn this, you can't unlearn it. There is no going back. And of course, the part that I need to start adding is you won't want to go back either.
Right.
Something else jumped out at me with Amy as well. And I encourage all of you to, whether you join the program now, whether you join it later, whether you're sort of dipping a toe in with some of the sample materials, what I would encourage you to do is to do what Amy did. Start with some sort of a goal that is a stretch for you. That's kind of C-type goal that you're kind of a little afraid of, that you've never done before, but maybe something that's not super duper heavy duty scary. And I always say, do that and be like a scientist in a laboratory. Apply, get your own results, as Amy did. And once you get your own results, guys, that's worth more than anybody could tell you in words, because now you know it, you've experienced it, you begin to crack that code. And like Amy, now you start setting those big, wild C-type goals. Amy's goal is she has a goal to start her own business. She's already done that. She's got two clients. She's got a pretty audacious financial goal that she's going to hit by the end of the year. And she knows how to do it now. One other thing, I want to backtrack a little bit to something Amy said about the 36 pounds that she lost. I'm laughing here because I love when I see these laws of the universe acting with mathematical certainty and precision. Amy first said, "Oh, I only lost 36 pounds," which is remarkable, actually. Then went back and did the math, looked at what her goal was, did the math, and that was precisely what she asked for. Now, with Amy and anybody else that's in that position, I'm going to say this to myself also, that little real world laboratory experience tells us now, well, gee, if I could get precisely what I wanted with that goal, I can get precisely what I want with any goal. So that sort of can act as stepping stones to help us say, okay, got it. I see that this works. I believe it. I get the results. I know it. So now, okay, now I can set this bigger goal that's way up here, which is what Amy is doing now. So proud of you, Amy. This is
Thank
just
you.
heartening. My heart is just, I'm like the Grinch who stole Christmas. My heart has grown
3
3 sizes.
sizes since we've been sitting here. The other thing that I feel a need to throw into this,
Yep, go ahead.
because you've talked about setting goals that scare you. And you know this about the debate that I had in terms of what kind of business I wanted to launch.
Mhm.
I had in my mind two options. I had one that would be um, creating some online learning programs very similar to the kinds of things that I had been doing for many, many years
Mhm.
in the corporate world. And I did for several years as an independent consultant. So I knew I could do that. Wasn't very scary, but something I thought I would enjoy doing like on my own and
Mhm.
with total creative freedom. So there was a allure to that. The other choice was much scarier to me because during all of that time that I had uh, the chronic severe pain, and I had to lose, it was like 100 pounds before they would
Mm.
replace my hip. So I learned a lot about healthy eating and good nutrition. And I did. I lost the weight and got the hip replaced and started on my way back to health. But during the time that it was downtime, I thought, I can't just do nothing. So I enrolled in a 6-month program to become a certified health coach.
Hmm.
And I thought that I would do something with that, but I got another corporate job that was too good to pass up. And so it went to the back burner. And as Peter and I started talking now, at this point, about my options, that was there, but I was afraid of it. I was
Hmm.
afraid of it because I had gained some weight back. I felt like a hypocrite. I thought, who's going to believe me or trust me that I have the right knowledge and skill set to help them? But the truth is, that was the kind of client that fell into my lap.
Yeah.
And the more I talked to people, because my niche definitely are not the people that only have a few pounds to lose or that are, the most fitness fanatical types. The people that I am going to help are those who've had lifelong struggle and just, probably many attempts and a lot of success and failures and roundabout situations. And I know that I can help them. And they, as I start talking to people, they actually, I think, relate more to
Yes.
someone who's had their struggle. And so all of the fear that I had about taking this on, that also is changing. And I think it's
Marvelous.
going to be the right thing for my life and really probably to fulfill my purpose here. So I that's another thing
Wonderful.
I wanted to say because I had to overcome a lot of fear to go in that direction, but I think it's been the best decision.
Marvelous, marvelous. And, we talk about something in the program. I'm not going to get into it here, but Amy overcame what's called her terror barrier. And continues to overcome terror barriers. And that's one of the things that we spend a lot of time working on in the program. So, Amy, I'm going to wrap up with our final question now. So, for anybody that is considering the program, they might be a little scared, a little trepidatious, kind of on the fence. What would you say to them based on your experience?
Well, I think if what you're doing now is working for you, then maybe, you're great. But if you're a person like myself that, has run into some situations that have you stuck or that have been things that you've kind of struggled with your whole life and tried a lot of different things that may have worked short term but never really lasted long term, the
Hmm.
the advice I would give to someone is you probably need something that goes a little deeper. You probably need something that really accounts for a lot of just universal principles and things that we really need to understand about how things really happen in our lives and the way that we get the results that we get. And so, Peter mentioned that if you're a little too nervous, just dip your toe in the water. I started that way, but I would say, to anyone who really wants to change something they've had a tough time with, this is the kind of thing that can help you move beyond that.
Wonderful. Well said, Amy. And we'll wrap up here, but I just want to thank you, Amy, for taking the time to share your experience with all of us. I know your interview here is going to help a lot of people, so I thank you for that. And I thank all of you for joining us for this interview as well. Again, as always, feel free to use this however you would like to. If there are people you'd like to share it with, if there are people that you think should see it, consider it fair game and feel free to share and help as many people as you possibly can with it. And with that, we're going to say goodbye for now, and we'll see you. I'm going to give a wave also, and we'll see you at the next interview.